Hello viewers, and today I have got just the loadout for you that you can use to win at the Iron Trials 84 event. As such, this is going to be a slightly different loadout video for you, where I'm not only going to be going through the primary weapon, but also the secondary weapon, the perks, and the lethals and tacticals. But before I break down all of that for you, and then show you the subsequent gameplay absolutely destroying in the Iron Trials event, it would be amazing if you could consider subscribing to the channel. I try and upload content like this every day. I mainly focus on off-meta loadouts and things like that, and so if you enjoy that type of content, then feel free to subscribe and leave a like on this video so I know that you enjoy this type of content, and it lets that YouTube algorithm know that you want to see more, and it really helps me out. And so here is the class that I would ultimately recommend. First, we're going to be looking at this M91 light machine gun from the Modern Warfare series of weapons. As standard, it has 100 rounds in its belt. That means that we have 5 attachment slots to truly focus on making this weapon as good as it can possibly be. Now, you should know a couple of things about the Iron Trials, and that is that health regen is a lot slower, and the enemies as well as yourself will have a lot more health. As standard, you'll have 250 health rather than 100, and that's on top of the 150 extra health that you can get from being fully armoured. This means that LMGs are suddenly extremely viable to use in Warzone because you need plenty of bullets to take down an enemy, and so going for something that's maybe got 45 or less rounds in it can be cutting it quite close. But anyway, here is the attachments that I'm using on this M91. I'm starting off with that monolithic suppressor, which, as well as providing that all-important sound suppression, will provide a 10% boost to damage range and a 15% boost to bullet velocity. And then I'm going to be combining this with the M91 Special Forces barrel. Now, you would notice that the M91 heavy barrel does provide that well-known triage of improvements in damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. But if you actually look at the statistics on True Game Data's website, then you will sort of see that this M91 Special Forces is sort of overall better, really. Even though it doesn't provide that recoil control, it does provide more proficient boosts in damage range and bullet velocity. Of course, in order to speed things up, I'm using this tac laser in the laser attachment slot to speed up that aim down sight speed. And for those further away shots, we've got boosts to aiming stability and aim walking steadiness, meaning that that first pull of the trigger is nice and accurate, and we can start off each fight with a little bit of damage on the enemy. As each of the enemies are going to have quite a lot of health, we want to make sure that the horizontal bounce or that recoil stabilisation isn't going to be plaguing our full auto firing, and so I'm using the Commando foregrip in the underbarrel attachment slot, which will provide a 6% reduction to vertical recoil and a 15% reduction to that horizontal bounce, meaning that we're getting an overall 21% improvement to the accuracy of fully automatic fire. And to top it all off, I'm using the VLK 3x optic to really pin down and take out those mid to long range enemies. This VLK optic is actually a 2x magnification, even though it does claim to be a 3x, and it does have some hidden stats. It will reduce even further that vertical recoil by 11%, and horizontal bounce gets an even bigger reduction at 20%. But anyway, moving on to the secondary weapon that I'm using. I'm not using overkill, so I don't have another primary weapon, and instead I'm actually using the X16. Everyone should be well versed with the X16 because before we entered sort of the Cold War era of Warzone, the X16 was the weapon that everyone started with. And for this particular loadout, I'm going for an akimbo setup. So I'm using the monolithic suppressor, as I did do with the M91, 10% boost to damage range, 15% boost to bullet velocity, as well as that all-important sound suppression. Of course, because this is going to be a hip-fire weapon, with it being an akimbo, I want to be able to get as much lead downrange as possible. And so I'm using the lightweight trigger to boost that fire rate and overall DPS. In order to maximize that hipfire accuracy, I'm using the 5mm laser. I think this will boost the hipfire accuracy by around about 50 to 60%, plus we get sprint to fire speed, which means that we can rush the enemy and draw our weapons nice and quickly so that we can fire at the enemy and get that down nice and quick. And of course, to complement the akimbo, the hipfire and the lightweight trigger, we want plenty of bullets in both magazines before we've got to spend precious time reloading. And so the 26 round mags for me is pretty much a no-brainer. Now if you think about it, with an akimbo, it's not actually 26 rounds that we're going to have before we've got to reload, it's actually 52. And so we can deal a lot of damage with these pistols. Moving on to the perks that I'm going to be using, as I mentioned, health regen is a lot slower in this game, and that means that health regeneration also starts a lot later as well. And with health being at 250 instead of 100, it can really help that you're healing nice and quickly after each fight, and that is why I'm using quick fix. This means that every time you down an enemy, you will immediately start healing, and this can literally be the difference between life and death. When you down maybe one enemy and the teammate is rushing to try and come and finish you off perhaps, but you need as much health as possible to be able to win the remainder of that fight, and so the quick fix is what I'm using in perk 1. In perk 2, I'm using restock. Very often people will either go for something like Ghost perhaps or High Alert, but because loadouts are so difficult to get in this Iron Trials 84 event, not many people are actually going to be having their loadouts, and so I thought let's use restock so we can be nice and aggressive with our lethals and tacticals, and we can put lots of pressure on the enemy just with an added versatility to our overall loadout. And for the final perk, I'm using the Battle Hardened perk. Obviously, I don't need necessarily to use amped because I'm using pistols as my secondary and I can draw them nice and quickly. But with this Battle Hardened perk, everyone using stuns and flashes and gas grenades and things like that, they're going to have a much harder time at using them effectively against me because they are simply going to be not as effective. In the lethal slot, I'm using the proximity mine, which is essentially just a huge claymore, which is particularly good against taking out vehicles and things like that. And I also will use it almost a little bit like C4. I'll throw the proximity mine around the corner and I will shoot the proximity mine, and it does actually deal quite a large area of damage. And so it's actually a lot more versatile than you would initially think. And for the final attachment, I'm using the gas grenade. What I love about the gas grenade is that it sort of encompasses a lot of other tactical grenades all in one, because if you throw a gas grenade you will get a hit marker if you manage to choke out an enemy. This makes it almost act similar to a snapshot grenade, but at the same time gas grenades also stop people using their own tacticals and lethals, and it stops enemies from aiming down sights, and so it can give you that critical few seconds to sort of make that really important push after you've thrown the gas grenade and take out the enemy. Let me know what you think of using the gas grenades if you haven't used them in Warzone already. But anyway, that is my loadout for the Iron Trials 84 event. You'll have to let me know if you get any wins with this loadout. And apologies if this intro was a little bit longer, but I had to be a little bit more extensive with all of the different things that I'm using. But anyway, leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you very much for watching and enjoy the gameplay. This was one of our first games in the Iron Trials 84. And the first thing I quickly realised was that that sledgehammer is a little bit of a red herring. And what I mean by that is that just meleeing with that magnum is actually quicker than using the sledgehammer. So that's probably the first bit of advice I'd give you. The next thing you'll notice is that upon winning your gulag, you'll actually enter the game again with the weapons that you won the gulag with. But you should know, if you had a frag grenade, for example, and you use that frag grenade in the fight, you won't spawn with it. As you can see, we sort of got surrounded here. But luckily, Charlie still had his gulag and he won, so we both came back and headed to this central fire station just off Stadium. And then I got this RPD, and this is when I knew or I'm about to realise how important LMGs are. Luckily, I'd already put an LMG as my Iron Trials loadout, but I am just about to see just how useful having 120 rounds can be. Even though Charlie went down then, I definitely saved him because they were being very aggressive. But then Charlie tells me that there's another team pushing them behind, so if I just sneak in nice and slowly... You don't want to start shooting at an enemy because they've got extended health. You sort of want to pull that trigger knowing that you've got a good chance of killing them. Obviously I fired a second ago to try and sort of make them take cover so I could get Charlie, as I am doing right now. Give him some armour, because armour is so important in this game mode as well, as it is in normal, I suppose, really. But yeah, the reason why we're trying to get so much money is because the loadouts are actually 15,000 in this game mode as well, which is really annoying. Things like UAVs are 6,000 as well, so it's almost like a completely different sort of preset of the game, really. Almost like it's encouraging a different meta and things like that. I mean, there's no, if a weapon's got less than 45 rounds in a mag, you're really going to struggle with it in the long term. There's plenty of players about, so me and Charlie, we're sort of just trying to protect each of these cubbies and sort of expose ourselves at these opportune points. Charlie did get flanked though. We were looking for someone in that building. I got a finish on that guy. His teammate was nowhere to be seen or heard, so I thought, get Charlie up straight away. And we have got enough for a loadout now, so I'm going to go for that reload, make the most of it while it's a bit quieter. We need to take out these enemies, really. I know that there's a team, or one guy I should say, behind that red crate. Charlie's just taken out another guy, look. There's his teammate, and there is also the bounty, and now we've got a hell of a lot of money, even by Iron Trial standards. Even though I was absolutely loving this RPD, I still wanted to get my M91 loadout and just see what it was like. So here it is, we've got it here. You can see on the UAV, there's a red dot in that little hole, and that hole is a cubby.
Be advised, UAV is being overviewed.
Notice he had a sniper, and I don't know, to be honest, as of recording and commentating over this bit of gameplay, if snipers actually one-shot in this game mode. Obviously the only chance of them actually one-shotting at all must be with a headshot.
Got gas inbound. Safe zone relocated.
We know we've got to move now. As you can see, the circle has gone into downtown, but we've got to deal with these guys here now. Charlie's going to go for a flank. I'll hold the angle. I got the armor break on him, but he got the armor break on me, and he's probably feeling pretty confident. I mean, you usually do, don't you? Use a sniper rifle and you get an armor break, you're like, oh, he's definitely one shot. But so was he, and Charlie made that lovely little flank round to the left, and we got him. And obviously, because it takes longer to kill your enemies, always good to have munitions. Just going to cover my angle here, and it was perfectly timed because, and there you can see the usefulness of the akimbo pistols. Don't need amps because you can get them out nice and quick because they are a pistol secondary. And I was very lucky to have put that mine down just then. But anyway, we sort of cleared out this building. There was a couple more. We made it up onto this sort of half roof overlooking where everyone's going to be rushing to get into the circle. taking shots quite a lot, but obviously because you've got more health, you've got plenty of time to sort of react to being fired at. That guy must be low. Another guy dropping on us. There you go. Once again, pistols did the job. I know there's someone there. I don't know if you just saw him. There he is. That guy was using a riot shield. He was a right pain through these latter stages of this game. But you can see we're just trying to move in unison. I need to reload my M91 just in case. But can't really afford to do so. It takes about 6 seconds to reload this weapon. But once you've got it reloaded, you know there's a hell of a lot of damage potential that you can deal, and it is very accurate at long range. Unfortunately, on this occasion, the circle literally moved the opposite direction to where we are. I'm just putting a bit of pressure on that riot shield guy. Taking the opportunity to reload. Tried not to get into the gas, but the animation did it nonetheless. We're moving up. We are nearly in the circle here. But these people that were shooting us, you sort of just think, oh, they got the drop on us. But it turns out that even though that was a third place, and unfortunately we didn't win on this occasion, I just thought it was a really good video showing off the sort of tactics that you can use in the Iron Trials 84 event. But anyway, the reason we died against that team is because, as we find out in the post-game sort of lobby where everyone starts talking, is that they were actually cheating. So I reckon we would have had quite a decent chance really, and that's why they were so aggressive to jump down there and things like that. But yeah, apparently they were cheating. The amount of abuse that they got in this lobby. Unfortunately you won't hear it because of the way I record, but you will probably see it in the middle left corner of the screen, all of the voices coming up. Obviously, helicopter just casually flying through the building there. But there you go, there's all the people saying cheating, scum and things like that. But anyway, thank you very much if you made it this far into the video, and let me know if you do use my loadout for the Iron Trials. And so, as I say, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.